Hello, welcome to today's show. I'm Jacqueline Stockwell, CEO and founder at Leadership Through Data. I inspire and motivate information leaders across the world.
I'm the principal consultant for Leadership Through Data. I'm also their data protection officer. So I have been an information governance lead in the public sector for too many years than I care to mention. And latterly, I was in the health and social care space. But really, my passion is about making it easier for people to do the right thing, particularly within an information governance framework, but also within Microsoft 365.
Amazing. So, Rachel, you are also an award-winning principal consultant as well, where we went to the IRMS, so the Information Records Management Society conference in May, and you won an award. Do you want to tell me what you won the award for?
So it was completely humbling, and I didn't expect to win because I was with so many lovely and amazing people who were nominated. But I was nominated by the Electoral Commission for working with them to deliver a step change in their information governance framework, prepping for a rollout in Microsoft Teams. So it was really, as I said, humbling to get the award. And what was lovely about it is that it was voted for by my peers, which made it feel all the more special. So yes, fabulous.
Yeah, it was amazing. And I was there cheering you on, going, "Yay, Rachel, well done." So it's been a really, really super piece of work. You've also won another award with us, which I believe you have in the office today with you, so you could show everybody.
We do have the award in the office, and this was an award for us as principal consultants, so Business Consultancy Awards by Altaris, and myself and Andrea, who is the principal consultant with me for Leadership Through Data, and we won that award, which is also amazing to really feel like we're in the right track in terms of how we're delivering our consultancy to people, because the last thing I want to be doing, and I know Andrea wants to be doing, is giving people stuff that they don't need, because there's limited resources and people are really struggling with that balance of risk and resource. So I think that kind of tells us that we're on the right track in terms of making sure our products that we're delivering are really hitting the spot for clients, and so they're not wasting money.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you very much for that. So I now kind of want to talk about a piece of education, right? So you delivered a session for the IRMS and a talk, and I just want you to tell me a bit more about the talk, and then tell me about the statistical research that you found out whilst you were delivering that.
Yeah, and sometimes it's funny, isn't it? Because we think we're never going to be surprised because we've been in this game. Well, I've been in this game a number of years. I'm a bit older than you, Jack. But we did some statistics as part of an IRMS webinar, which was an introduction to records management. So it was like a refresher of what a good records management framework should look like. And there was a fairly equal split with the attendees for those that had been in for 1 year, and these were records managers, 1 year, 1 to 5 years, and over 5 years. So that was kind of the three splits we had. Now, what was the surprising stat, though, was when asked if they'd had formal records management training, whopping 63% said no. And to me, that's saying that we are not recognizing that records management is a profession, and we are not training people to do good records management. People are trying to sort of grasp the concepts almost by osmosis, by speaking to people through free webinars, whatever it might be, which are valuable, but the fundamental training is just not there. And I thought that was really surprising. And for those that had been trained, another surprising stat, for 30%, it was 1 to 5 years ago, so not too bad. But for 35% of those people, it was over 5 years ago. So people are
And that's
not being trained. Sorry.
no, carry on.
So the surprising thing about that is not only are people not being trained generally, if we are training people, there's never refresher training that's coming in. And I find that disappointing as well.
Because one of the big things that I see in business, and certainly with the changes of technology and entrepreneurship, is that actually if you're not keeping up to date in innovation or products and services for customers, your business will ultimately just stop. It won't grow any further. And I think very much so within the profession, because it is it's kind of come from records management into AI to, technology. And if those people aren't getting trained between 1 and 5 years, can you imagine the amount of changes that have happened within the profession, within technology, within AI,
Definitely.
within that space of time? And that is concerning.
Definitely. And I think as well, for me, it's about the building blocks as well, Jack, because records management underpins everything we do as an organization. And you mentioned the words AI there. It's now underpinning what's good about AI. If we don't get records management right, then actually the AI is really poor and actually exposing data it shouldn't be exposing, because our information architecture won't be right if we're not giving enough respect to records management. And we've also got that sustainability question, which is becoming more and more important. I think I saw a stat that there's 9 new data centres being built in the UK over the next 5 years. We are building data centres to store data that's probably not even required by organisations. So we're spending money we shouldn't be spending, and we're actually affecting the environment. So it just is amazing to me that we're not getting the fundamentals right in terms of records management lifecycle.
Agreed. And that comes in when you talk about data centers. We're looking at nuclear power data centers, aren't we? So that has an impact. So and I find it interesting that we talk about this quite a lot. What can people do, that listeners, to reduce the amount of digital data that they have, Rach?
I know it's frustrating for people because we often hear people talking about rot. Okay. Now it's the most difficult thing to do is to put data through a life cycle. I don't care what anyone says. It's not an easy job to do, and records managers don't have an easy job. We've already seen from those stats, they don't get buy-in from the grown-ups. It's not even seen as a profession. So for me, the fundamental is thinking about why we need to get rid of our information that we no longer need. So selling that point that actually we have got these drivers. Cost is always the biggest driver. Risk is always the biggest driver. So it's selling that requirement to get rid of the rot first, I think. And I know that you've got some amazing courses online about how we can better sell ourselves, like market ourselves as records managers. The other thing, though, for me is not trying to be too complicated. People try to run before they can walk and spend gazillions on fancy records management tooling that actually doesn't work. Get your information architecture right. Get your containers right that you're going to put stuff in. Thinking about M365, for example, if you've got the containers right and you can say to people, okay, human resources, put that information in that container. I don't mind what else you do in that space, but as long as your material is stored in that container, we can then put the governance around that container and make sure it's got a retention label, for example. Simple. It might not be a purist, fabulous against your existing retention schedule. We might have to get like a bit of a compromise and get a digital retention schedule. So we're reducing the number of retention periods we might be applying, but that risk is better than not doing life cycle management at all. So it's thinking simply. I think people try to overcomplicate it too quickly. Yes, and then get your maturity. We can overcomplicate it later on in that cycle, but not immediately. So keep it simple, it's in place, and then use your policies and procedures that you've identified, simply using information architecture in the technologies you're deploying. That for me.
Fabulous. And just to clarify for the listeners, ROT is redundant, obsolete, and trivial.
Yes.
Trivial information. Thank you, Rachel. Kind of like going a little bit off topic here, but I want to talk about frameworks and I want to talk about strategy. So information governance, information management strategies. For those, obviously it's a huge requirement. I talk about it in my book about setting sail and kind of all the nuts and bolts. Do you want to just tell people why they need a strategy, the importance of it, and how to implement it?
Yeah, I think for me, we have finite resources. I'm going to bring it back to that. Everything we do is about risk and resource. So our strategy should be about actually what are we trying to fix? and what priority do we need to put on those different areas that we're trying to fix. So how are we going to deploy our people, our process, our policy? Everything relates to prioritization for me. So the strategy needs to cover all of those bases, but ultimately what that's doing is saying to our grown-ups in our organization, this is where we are, this is our as-is position, and this is where I want to be by a certain point in time. And I think that then gives them a really transparent view of how they're spending their money in my records management team. So if they're not paying any attention to us because they're not giving us training, they're not seeing us as a profession, we need to keep pushing that message. And a strategy for me does that.
Beautiful, beautiful. And as an award-winning consultant, Rachel, how do you keep up with your professional development?
So there's lots of different ways. So I'm based in the UK, so I'm going to sort of give it a bit of a UK focus. Obviously, I follow all of the Leadership Through Data podcasts and all of the updates that we put on LinkedIn and other resources. So there's lots of free resources out there that can keep us sort of topping up our professional skills. What I do think, though, is I'm probably in a different place because I've been working in this profession for a number of years, but I still had fundamental training at the beginning to say what the building blocks were for records management. And I've had formal top-up training. So, for example, I've written for us as a company records management training and records management deep dive, or amended over time to make sure it's up to date with, as you said, the sort of technological change. So I think courses like that are really important. The other top tip is the JISC lists. So for anyone listening, the JISC lists, you go to the JISC website and you can register on the website, and then you can follow lists that are around certain topics like records management, data protection, M365. And it's our community discussing problems and issues. So you can kind of absorb best practice from that too. So I think that's amazing. And join a professional body. RMS is who I am a member of, where I got my award. Thank you. But I think a professional body also lets you see how you are doing with your peers. So you need to understand about where you want to be in the records management profession, for example. And there are resources in IRMS where we've got a professional skills framework. So you talked about the organizational strategy, but I've also had a personal strategy. So I am here on that professional skills framework. I'm aspiring to be here on that professional skills framework. So as is and to be. And what do I then need to do as a professional to make sure I get to the level that I want to achieve?
I love that. And you also do go to conferences as well, don't you? So you do some public speaking, and that's another really good way of keeping up with your professional development. And you are a good reader as well, Rach. As I understand, you do like a good book. Do like a good. So there's those other things, isn't it? It's not just sort of like training and webinars. There's a wide range of things to grow your mind. So that's brilliant. Just kind of coming towards the end of the podcast, what's the one piece of advice that you could give to a new professional wanting to come into our industry?
What's the best piece of advice? That's so hard because there's so many things I want to tell them to do. Do you know what? I think making sure that they're on the right thought leading blogs, websites, sort of absorbing themselves into the culture of the profession and understanding who the key thought leaders are, like yourself, Jackie. You know, you've now authored a book and you are leading us in terms of how our training needs to pivot to match like changes in technology, etc. So for me, it's about finding the right people that speak your language in terms of that thought leadership. It's also to join a profession, and there's often some really, really good reduced rates or special sort of options that cater for new professionals, and there's awards for new professionals. It's just good to feel that buzz because quite often you're in a team of 1, 2, 3 records managers. It's nice to feel the power of the whole profession with you, and I think I would say that to a new professional.
Brilliant. And there's also local information governance steering groups of a mix of where I used to go in the National Health Service, where you can meet peers and have that conversations and kind of have that really support and mentoring as well.
Yes.
Rachel, we've talked a lot about awards, and there's a big thing in our industry around imposter syndrome, and the two don't seem to correlate with one. I'm very proud, so I put myself forward for awards or get nominated for awards because actually it's a recognition of your achievement. How do you feel about awards?
When you just mentioned imposter syndrome, I got a real shiver go on my back then. I like to call it stage fright.
Okay.
On a lot of occasions. So I'm a trainer at Leadership Through Data, and every training course I start, I get stage fright. I get that imposter syndrome. What if they know more than me? What if there's questions I can't answer? What if? So it doesn't matter, I don't think, where you are in your profession, that imposter syndrome or stage fright will rear its head. But you know what I think that means? I think it means we're passionate about it. And actually we care. And if we didn't get that stage fright, then actually it's all become a bit too routine for us. So I look at it as a bit of a superpower, that it means I still care, I'm still passionate, but I get it whenever I'm doing public speaking and whenever I'm doing a training course and consultancy.
Consultancy. And I use the analogy that I'm always on a stair. There'll always be someone better than me, but as long as I just keep stepping up and up, then I'm going to raise up the profile. And it is hard. Imposter syndrome is hard. It can come over as quite an anxious thing as well, can it? And you can suffer undue health, but it's kind of just making sure you're comfortably uncomfortable, I think some people say, and just kind of keep pushing that growth mindset. Rachel, it's been absolutely fantastic to have you on the show today. Thank you so much for your time. Could you please tell the listeners how they can reach out to you if they want to have any further conversations?
Of course. So I am a principal consultant for Leadership Through Data. So you can email me through their website. I'm on LinkedIn, so please connect. I love a discussion about anything to do with information governance and records management, data protection, whatever it is. So yeah, they're probably the two easiest ways to reach out to me.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Journals of the Information Entrepreneur with me, Jacqueline Stockwell. I hope you found this episode inspiring and helpful and have some takeaway tips that can be useful to you. If you liked this episode, please like, review and share it with your friends. Your support helps us reach more information leaders to stay inspired and listen to great content. Want to test out your strengths and weaknesses and measure it against our Empower framework? Please complete the scorecard. It's a great way to improve and evaluate your skills. You can find the scorecard at the end of the description of this podcast. Stay tuned for a new podcast every Thursday, and remember to be bold, be brave and be beautiful.